Hello, I'm Wayne and welcome to Goals by the Numbers. And today we ask the question, what would Manchester United be without Bruno Fernandes? Let's just get straight into it. So, I want you to imagine something with me. Not a new signing, not a formation tweak. I want you to imagine Manchester United without Bruno Fernandes. This is actually a comment that was raised in the last video. Because whether you love him or hate him, Bruno isn't just a player, he's almost a style of football. Chaos, risk, improv. So the real question becomes, if you remove chaos, what replaces it? Today, we're putting together a list of 6 completely different managers, as currently Manchester United don't have a permanent manager, and you're going to see how one player can change an entire football identity. So, why does Bruno Fernandes actually matter? When you watch Manchester United, you're not watching structure first. You're watching possibility. Dare I say, sometimes there's even a bit of beauty in chaos. Bruno attempts passes other players just don't see or actually attempt to make. And yes, sometimes he loses the ball in the process of it. But here's the interesting part. Modern elite teams don't rely on possibility anymore. They rely on repeatability. Think Pep Guardiola. So if Manchester United ever moved Bruno Fernandes on or he left, they wouldn't just be replacing a number 10. They'd actually be choosing a philosophy going forward. So the options for a new manager. And yes, I have removed some who have extended their contract, such as Tuchel and Ancelotti. And I don't think Nagelsmann is a likely candidate at this point. Roberto Zerbi. Let me ask you this. Have you ever watched a team and thought, why are they passing the ball just in front of their own box like that? That doesn't look dangerous. That's De Zerbi. He wants to, I guess, maybe make you a bit nervous. He wants the opponents to press because his press is a trap. He would have Manchester United build in a 4-4-2 shape. Fullbacks would step into midfield and the centre-backs would literally just stand on the edge of the box with the ball, waiting. They're trying to bait the press. Then, one vertical pass and suddenly the whole pitch is wide open. Now, here is the key difference. Bruno thrives on urgency. De Zerbi wants patience. So instead of Bruno, he would want a player who pauses a game, waits, then releases the ball. Statistically, we're thinking of a Florian Wirtz type player. Not forcing moments, but creating inevitability. So then we have Gareth Southgate, or as I would personally call it, safety first football. Now imagine the opposite feeling when watching Manchester United. Instead of anything could happen, it's calm. Because Southgate doesn't want excitement, he wants control of risk. Or as I would argue, to put you to sleep. 5 players are essentially generally always behind the ball. The fullbacks don't both attack at the same time, and the wingers will tuck inside a little bit. You think of Rashford and Saka. Nothing accidental, nothing too crazy. So Bruno, risk creativity. That completely disappears. Instead, you get a midfielder who helps you not lose shape. And that would lead me to conclude that actually you'd want a Jude Bellingham type player in this kind of system. He would arrive in the box to aid the attack, but he still contributes to other areas of the pitch to help the team retain a solid defensive shape. He never breaks the structure or tries anything too spectacular. He's just a functional member of the team. Southgate's United wouldn't throw you every week, I would argue not at all, but they would be really annoying to play against. And then we have Oliver Glasner. So if we change the tempo and even the prospective formation, what if Manchester United stopped trying to avoid controlling games and instead decided to attack the moment they regain position? That's Glasner. A bit like Klopp in the early days with Liverpool. Vertical football, essentially vertical tiki-taka. The ball would move forward towards the goal, not in phases, but just directly forward. And the number 10 in this sense doesn't create anymore, he just arrives to aid the main striker. So instead of Bruno searching for runners for the assist, you'd get runners instead of that chaos. And this is where Mateus Cunha would do very well in this type of team. A narrow attacker, second balls, direct sprints. You wouldn't watch Manchester United for the build-up, you'd watch them for the impact they can have. And as a side note, Glasner's Crystal Palace also play with a 3 centre-back formation similar to what Amram was doing. Our next candidate is Iraola. Have you ever watched a game where one team just felt like they don't let the others breathe and just constantly press and attack them? That's Iraola, that's Bournemouth. The match becomes physical pressure. The moment opponents pass backwards, everyone jumps and presses. And here's the twist. The most important attacker isn't going to be the striker, it's actually going to be the number 10, because he tends to start the press and start the hunt down for the ball. So the Bruno creator in this instance becomes Mount as a presser, assuming he can stay fit. In this system, chances don't come from imagination. They come from stealing the ball 30 yards from the opponent's goal and then having a direct attack. You don't wait for mistakes, you manufacture them by pressing. And now we have the current incumbent, Michael Carrick. Now, slow everything down, become a bit more methodical and intentional with the play. Little passes, angles opening, players moving positions to overload on one side of the pitch, then a switch to the other side of the pitch can create chances of the one-on-one nature. Instead of forcing a killer ball, you move defenders around the pitch until the killer pass becomes obvious. This is where Bruno changes the most. Because Carrick doesn't want a spectacular pass, he wants the correct pass. And this is where I think a Cole Palmer type player would work well. He'd receive, bounce a pass, he'd move, receive pass again. You're not going to react to the opponent, you're quietly repositioning them to then ask the questions in a one-on-one scenario. And of course, we always need a surprise choice on every list. So, the last scenario. Strip football down to purely outcomes, just two. Where is the ball and where is danger? Sam Allardyce cares about essentially just those two things. You'd see a deep block, crosses, second balls, and set pieces. The number 10 stops being an artist in this sense. He becomes a specialist. And this is where someone like a James Ward-Prowse, delivering corners and free kicks, or a physical target winning knockdowns, a bit like Fellaini back in the day, would be absolutely perfect. No overplaying, no unnecessary risk. You may not love how it looks, but you understand exactly why it works. So, what would be our takeaway from this list of managers? Of course, they're different, and hiring a new permanent manager is coming to another scenario where we look at Bruno Fernandes and think, is it time to move him on and have him do something different? I can actually remember as a kid when Eric Cantona left Manchester United and genuinely wondering, is the world still going to continue to turn after this happens? But life moved on. Manchester United went on to win more leagues, players were signed, players left. So no player really is bigger than the club. And you also have to remember, as was clearly pointed out to me in a comment, Bruno Fernandes has been at Manchester United for a really, really negative period or troublesome period. So him moving on or leaving, it would be a shame. I think he's a really great player, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. And Liverpool, so Coutinho, who also was an impactful player for them, made a tidy profit, and it went on to start winning leagues and the Champions League, if I remember correctly. So, yeah. We're back to the point. Removing Fernandes doesn't just change creativity, it changes the type of football the team essentially believes in. But what about you? What would you want? Control, safety, vertical chaos, relentless pressure, positional intelligence, or pure efficiency? Because once the new manager is hired, that's likely to be one of the outcomes that we're going to see. Anyway, I'm Wayne, I'll catch you in the next one.